Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grapes Great Live Tasting live from Manchester. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks very much for joining us on this outrageous tasting. We've got for you this delicious and delightful Friday evening. It is old school versus new school Cabernet edition. My name's Tom. This is Barry. And Barry Cabernet is hung over. Are you hung over today, Barry?
Yes, I am.
Barry is in the fucking bin.
I used up all my dopamines last night when I was out with my work colleagues for our annual sales meeting, and that
meeting.
Yeah, exactly. It was like an hour and a half talking about.
So, what we're going to sell this week? Every single time you're looking over the corner into the what wines we're going to drink immediately upon this meeting having finished.
And I started off with boozy milkshakes and Wolf at the Door. Thanks, Jacob. That was they did like they do like takeovers and like temporary menus and stuff.
Yeah,
so bows and tacos. So they've done a McDonald's inspired menu, but they've inverted the golden arches into a W for Wolf. So McDonald's got in touch and they gave them a cease and desist. So what did they do? They go full Wolf. So yeah, they're framing it and cracking on with that.
Yeah. Did they change the menu though?
Yeah.
Of course they did. So they were like, yeah. But we're gonna, fuck you, corporate McDonald's. We're not gonna fucking badge it. Look, we're gonna frame it and put it on the thing, but change that immediately because they will shut your fucking ass down. McDonald's have got every lawyer in the world on retainer.
They're not more
money than Jesus.
They're not small.
We're like, yeah, man, listen, man, we're gonna stick it to the man. Change it immediately, quickly before the lawyers turn up and put the fucking locks on the door.
Yeah, they did a boozy strawberry milkshake with a tequila rose in it, and it tastes just like a McShake.
Strawberry milkshake.
Milkshake, yeah.
Mickey shake.
I've got a Mac hangover today. So.
Hey, come for the wine, stay for the one-liners. Hey, there we go. So this is something that we decided to do, not particularly long ago, if we're brutally honest, because this came about because we had a free weekend. Decided.
Well, you do. I've got free back-to-back wine fest.
Well, I've got a free Friday night then, and we're like, well, what wine do we want to taste? And I had to try and convince Barry because Barry's a busy boy. What wine can use to convince Barry? And the one grape that we can use to sucker him in is the glorious Cabernet Sauvignon.
The Cabernet Trap.
The Cab Trap.
The Cab Trap.
There we go. So we put this on last week, and all of you beautiful boys and girls have booked on. So let's have a little swaz at what we're going to be tasting today. Just whilst we got your attention, though, we've got another couple of tastings coming up in mid-December. They're going to be a baller's guide to what to drink at Christmas. I think on the 8th, and we've got something else on the 15th. I can't remember what it is, but head to grapesgrain.co.uk. And if you use G2G fam, you guys know you get 20% off. So don't miss out and get booked onto them.
What we drinking for Christmas?
Have
you picked the wines? Huh?
Yes. We're having a whole bottle of Alasia Brachetto d'Acqui.
Each.
a bottle each throughout the course of the tasting. Just that'll be a bonus bottle only because it's busy wizzy. And then I think we've got some absolute pangers wine.
Some champagne.
No, I think we've gone for the Brachetto for the fizzy.
Right, fair.
But so yeah, some delicious, couple of whites, couple of reds.
Awesome.
Some fucking super duper fly stuff. So head to grapesgrain.co.uk, book on. We've also got our tasting room is now open.
Is it?
Yeah, had the first tasting up there last night for Beaujolais Day. You'll be glad to hear that the Robert Sarau Le Bouquet was the #1 Beaujolais Nouveau as voted for by the people of Prestwich.
How many people were there? 3?
No, we're sold out.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, we were sold out. They loved the. I did a couple of cru Beaujolais as well. So we did a Fleury and a Morgon. But of the 2 Beaujolais Nouveau, you beat Jen's Beaujolais Nouveau.
Where's my phone?
Pants.
I need to glow.
You pantsed her, pulled her down and spanked her body with your. But you know why? It's because yours was the most Beaujolais of the Beaujolais.
Yeah.
Foamy banana, tastic, mate. It was like the minute I said foamy banana, everyone was like foamy bananas. Fuck off. It was perfect, mate. It was like it was
awesome.
It was achieving tasting nirvana. It was magnifico.
Good to hear, man. That's nice. That's
so taste rooms. I know we've got 2 champagne and cake tastings on tomorrow, both of which are sold out. With the cakes coming from Lupo.
Any good champagne?
Yeah.
Any Tribo?
None of yours.
Get fucked.
We did a whole champagne tasting on champagne Tribos. We can't just trot it out every single fucking time.
But it is the best champagne.
It's good champagne. I'm not going to disagree with that. However, the Piper Heidsieck Essential Blanc de Blanc is also pretty fucking good. The Deveau Grand Reserve is also pretty good. And the Champagne Blanc de Noir, Champagne de Loche, which is another Jenny Spesh.
Champagne de Loche. I've heard of it. All right, brilliant.
He's such a bitch.
Well,
back to tonight.
There's a clear winner before we start, ladies and gents, which is number one. There you go. Right, see you later. See you next week.
So yeah, today's tasting is all about Cabernet. With wine one is going to go against wine two. So we've got the Chateau d'Ozac, La Bastide d'Ozac Margaux.
That's my wine,
which is a Barry wine. However, this is the one that he loves, and a producer that he loves almost more than any other. So what's going to win, his wine or the wine that he actually really likes? Barry is going to be put on the spot. We're going to see what his colors are actually made of. And then wine three versus wine four, we've got a Saint Julien, a really incredibly underrated Bordeaux appellation. Mainly because it doesn't have any first growth growers. More about that as we move on to talk about Bordeaux. I've tried both of these earlier on. They are both drinking exceptionally well and radically different. Up against that is the Pine Ridge, the Piney Bay itself.
Never heard of it.
2021 vintage of the Pine Ridge Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. 15.5%. And I tell you what, you wouldn't know it was anything over 13. It's madness. It is so soft. Right, Buzz, talk us through your take on this lineup.
Well, it's old versus new, which is always nice to see. And then, because it's a Cabernet thing, the first two have got less Cabernet than other varieties. Which just makes it fair. For the Cabernet session, neither wine one nor wine two are over 50% Cabernet. But I think the good thing is though, because Cabernet Sauvignon really benefits from a warmer climate. The fruit becomes riper. It's less green. It's less herbal. So usually I lean towards New World style Cabernet Sauvignon, and particularly like stuff that's maybe from a cooler part of America, like Columbia Valley, for instance. I don't know if you remember Chateau Saint Michel, that Cabernet was absolutely one of my favorite, pound for pound. It was hard to beat that one. And it's interesting to see that the ones from France, Bordeaux territory, are both second wines of relatively famous chateaux made from younger vines, which means that they're designed to be drank younger.
Which is obviously a departure. Maybe Bordeaux is obviously one of the things I was reading about, which is fascinating, and it was that Jancis Robinson was talking about it, is unlike Chardonnay, right, which can be quite neutral and doesn't really reach the pinnacles of the golden slopes of the Côte d'Or in Burgundy, really anywhere else, unless it's very, very specific. Chardonnay can be quite neutral, but it does have the same distribution as Cabernet, namely that Cabernet is grown all over the world, whether it's Maipo Valley in Chile to the Napa Valley in California, or whether it's Coonawarra and the McLaren Vale in Australia, Lebanon for exactly. Cabernet is grown all over the place, just like Chardonnay. But the thing about Cabernet, regardless of whether, and the way she phrased it was quite nice, regardless of whether or not it is grown to greedily extravagant yields by over irrigation, or whether it's just treated incredibly poorly, massively like just fat grapes, without it still has that tangible link back to its heartland of Grave and the Medoc in Bordeaux. You can trace a lineage. It might not be a very clear one, and it might, especially in some of the cheaper, more crappy Cabernets, which do exist out there in the world, but there is always that tangible link back to where it began, whereas Chardonnay doesn't necessarily have that. The other thing that she said was quite fascinating about Cabernet, and specifically, is that unlike other varietals, which tend to express very distinctly fruit characteristics, Cabernet is all about that lingering combination of barrel aging, always for tannin transfer between the quite brutal tannins that you get from the pips and the pith and the skin of Cabernet, to the tannin transfer to the tannins that you get from wood. Works better with Cabernet than almost any other grape. That's why Cabernet is rated as one of as the wine of fine wines, fine red wines, and it doesn't necessarily express any one specific fruit. We talk about blackcurrant
being
one of those things, but it's the other things that go together to make Cabernet, and it almost transcends region to then become terroir expressive, but maintaining something throughout it that is intangible. You know, Cabernet ascends beyond that, so it is fascinating to look at the difference and whether we can trace that link back to its original heartland in Bordeaux in these two wines that we're going to be pairing off.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. Obviously, there are different appellations within Bordeaux. I think that they're going to be drinking quite differently. Obviously, the New World ones are a different beast. We'll see what my preference is going to be.
Yeah, today. We're only going to get to a straight Cabernet by the time we get to the very, very last wine. But it's funny. It's one of those things that one of the other things that I was reading was that Cabernet is a grape that was almost born to blend. Because it does something within a blend. It provides fine grained tannins, it provides lifted acidity, it provides punch, power, and alcohol. And it almost needs to reach its full potential. It needs perhaps the gravelly soils of the left bank of the Gironde, perhaps. But what it definitely does benefit from most, what the prevailing wisdom is, that it works in a blend when put with other quintessentially Bordeaux varietals like Merlot and Cabernet Franc. It's daddy.
Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc.
Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc came together. The love child is Cabernet Sauvignon. Arguably, as we were talking about on the Rioja tasting, it may even have come from Rioja, but that's very, very contested. What is certainly true is that we've got some delicious wines for you today. So let's get cracking with wine number one. This is the La Bastide d'Ozac from Chateau d'Ozac, a deuxième classé.
Fifth growth.
Is it fifth growth? Yes. Chateau d'Ozac.
This is deuxième. What would
cinquième?
Cinquième. So yeah, this is fifth growth.
Le cinquième growth.
Which still means that this is part of a relatively, in inverted commas, elite club within Bordeaux classification. There's only 5 properties that have that. What was that? Premier Grand Cru, whatever. What's it called?
Yeah,
first growth. What would that be? Deuxième, troisième. What first be?
Premier.
It's a premier, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
You would do unième. Unième. It would be premier.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, it's obviously an illustrious little club, and fifth growth this is still a very well recognized.
Yeah, and one thing which we'll talk about when we're talking a little bit more about Margaux is that actually it's all kind of bollocks. Really, it happened 1855, so it was the emperor. No, it was King Napoleon III decided I'm going to need to do something about this, and kind of because everyone's sort of jumping in on this bandwagon. And all that happened was in 1855 we decided the ones that were making the most money or they were able to charge the most money were going to be the first growth. Well, obviously with the ones that are probably giving him the most money in return. One thing which I found out about today, just off topic, was the reason why wine was so late to arrive and be enjoyed in China was because, and this is Higgins who told me this, so take it with a pinch of salt.
That's probably not true.
No, one thing Higgins does know about is weird, quirky.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
historic facts is that in China, one of the emperors tried wine made from grapes, and he was like, "This shit is fucking brilliant." Not for anyone else. Is banned because he loved it so much. He said it was a drink for the gods, and the emperor was linked to God, and therefore nobody else could drink it. And as a consequence, making wine was banned in China for 3,000 years. So he loved wine so much that he stopped it from being a thing in anyone's life.
There is a bit of viticulture happening now in China.
Yeah, we've got a couple of the shelves in our Rest of the World section.
Is it the Canaan wineries?
Nincha regional Riesling, and the Pretty Pony.
Yeah, that's it.
Excuse me, can I speak to somebody who can speak a Chinese? It's the best. This anyway. Well, yeah. Look, just
Pretty Pony.
Pretty Pony. Fantastic. Anyway, back to tonight's tasting.
Let's go.
Rambling bullshit.
So Chateau d'Ozac. So this is a Morganrow wine. We are the sole importers and distributors of this fine chateau. 45 hectares of vineyard in Margaux, and another 4 in the rest of the Medoc. Dates back to like the 1100s. It's definitely something that's got a very rich history.
So this is the 2018. Grab your menus and let's have a little crack at it. You guys definitely all know how to do this. So first and foremost, you might find a little bit of sediment in this bottle. It's entirely possible, as there was a fair amount in there when I was decanting.
It's entirely possible.
Entirely possible. Have you tried elk meat? Filtered 52% Merlot, 48% Cabernet Sauvignon. So on this Cabernet Sauvignon tasting, the very first wine has more other grapes than Sauvignon, which you will find was going to be replicated in wine number 2.
Did we thought about that? Honestly,
no, I just had to choose a Cabernet that you had. And this was the one.
I've got no,
you don't.
Right.
2018. So I guess we've spent a little bit of time in bottle, not necessarily where it's supposed to be.
12 months in oak and then the rest in bottle. So
they said that this should be drinking between 5 and 15 years. It can age up to 20 years, and you don't really want to exceed that, is what I was reading on the Chateau d'Ozac website.
What did I know? Eh? But yeah, as you can see, it looks quite youthful.
Super stainy.
Yeah, it is very stainy.
That'll be the Merlot, I guess, actually, rather than the Cabernet.
Yeah, Cabernet is relatively thick-skinned as well, so it gives it a nice color. But yeah, it looks youthful. Really nice uniform color down the middle, quite inky, and then a nice ruby red, sort of like halo on the outline. Stained legs, as you already said. Let's see how they sort of adhere to the inside of the glass. They take forever and a day to form.
And ABV is 14.5%. So this is a pretty boozy boy.
He's easing me into it, yeah.
It's got a kind of a very specific elegance to it already in the nose.
Smells amazing.
In the eyes, rather. On the nose, I'm expecting it to be restrained, but
it's not very fruity. What I usually get from Bordeaux wines is that graphite, is that like pencil shavings.
Pencil lead.
Yeah, that's it. An expensive wood.
Definitely, it smells opulent. It's got like it smells wealthy. There's a little bit of that herbaceous thing, which are called what's the thing that it comes from Cabernet Sauvignon's lineage of Sauvignon Blanc. Something. What are the fucking something pyrazines? Begins with M. Methopyrazine.
Some chemical reaction that comes from Cabernet Sauvignon. And what is it that you find? Blackcurrant?
No, black, like green pepper.
Oh, green pepper. Yeah. That's sort of like herbaceousness. Yeah, I think usually I get it particularly from wines from South America. I get it a lot, particularly from Chile. Like
what I was listening to is called methoxypyrazine. Methoxypyrazine is the thing, and it's found particularly in Sauvignon Blanc. So when it's transferred into Cabernet Sauvignon, it's something that's there. But it's one thing that when it's in a hot climate, the methoxypyrazines are baked out of the wine, whereas in a cooler climate, like in Bordeaux, like in Chile, in the slopes of Andes, whether it be Colchagua or Maipo, the cooler climate doesn't cook those methoxypyrazines out of it. So that's why cool climate Cabernets will tend to express themselves as slightly more vegetal and greeny notes.
I don't really mind it,
No, I quite like it. Yeah. In the right quantities, it's brilliant. In fact, if you weren't hungover, you would be singing its praises beyond anything else.
Yeah.
But now you want shouty, like sweet wines, right?
I'd want Riesling. Really.
You want jammy boys.
Riesling and jam shed.
But yeah, no, it's a crucial thing because it lifts that wine. It stops it from being that sort of jammy booze bomb, and instead makes it into something more lifted and more fresh on the finish, which is quite important. So it's not just all about that upfront jammy face slap.
Definitely sort of like a dark fruit kind of vibe on the nose.
There is there, but you got to fucking look for it, haven't you?
Really look for it. I think it's very restrained on the nose. It reminds me of expensive wood. It reminds me of those pencil shavings. There's a little bit of a smokiness. There's like cigar box kind of vibes. But it's more becoming secondary, tertiary aromas that I expect from a Bordeaux wine. Really, some taste.
Prost, everybody! Cheers, santé.
Elegant,
just like the wine. Right, so interesting thing. See Barry sticking his finger out there. When you stick your finger out there, you think you're being posh. Actually, that comes from the French court where they would have been drinking Margaux, actually, where when you put your finger out, it let everybody know that you had syphilis. And so if you saw somebody else with their finger out as well, you both had syphilis, and you looked at each other and you said, hey, baby, can't catch it twice. Let's go. That was a 100% true story. You put your finger out, it's like, I've got syphilis. And if you see it, you go, hey, you and me.
I thought pink out was makes it taste better.
I mean, it means that you've got a venereal disease caught from being naughty.
Right.
And very French as well. Do you remember in Gangs of New York? Gangs of New York?
Yes.
Right, when Bill the Butcher describes this Bob the Builder says, you're fucking no, he says, watch out, Tammany, the whore's Frenchified. And he was talking about because the guy Tammany of Park Lane or whatever, he came into his thing, and the prostitute was the sex worker was trying to do whatever.
How many times have you seen that movie?
The whore is Frenchified because French was a synonym of having fucking syphilis. So, les enfants de la patrie. Right, how was that tasting like for you, bro? Bruh. Have your kids started calling you bruh?
Yeah,
apparently that's the thing.
Back on, mate.
Bruh.
No, well, he does say, I do hear him say it when he's playing his video games and stuff. Bruh. But no. Quite restrained, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think Barry's going to be full of the joys of spring when it comes to these French wines. But it's got a cleanness to it and a brightness to it. It's got a kind of intensity. That those lifted acids make it taste juicy. The tannins are fairly pronounced, but are soft.
They're quite grippy.
They're quite grippy. When you say describe as being chewy, it means you have to chew the tannins out of your mouth. But despite that fact of them being quite pronounced, they're still relatively soft if you compare it to perhaps some other ones. And it's maybe because it's got a couple of years before it's going to be drinking at its best. 3, maybe 4 years, and this wine will probably be banging.
It's more pronounced in the nose after I've put it in my mouth. Now I think that it's connected. Get a little bit of nice sort of like baking spices on the nose now. So there's a sweet note, like a little touch.
I'm guessing it has
kind of vibe.
Hasn't seen a single lick of American oak. No. There's no idea. There's no chance that anybody's putting any fucking Margaux in American oak. Jesus Christ, to be absolutely excommunicated immediately, sent to the goddamn gulag. See you later. Keep talking us through it, and I've got a nice little vid. So in fact, I've got a hilarious vid from Dozac.
Like I said, these guys are based in Margaux. They've got 45 hectares of vineyards over there, another 4 in the rest of the Medoc. The oldest known owner of Margaux was a chap called Petrus Dozac. There you go. So you might have heard of Chateau Petrus before and Chateau Dozac. Combine those two, I guess. He received the land from Richard I, also known as Richard the Lionheart in 1190. You must know something about this. You studied history.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Richard I,
Richard
the Lionheart.
They call him.
Coeur de Lion.
Oh, okay.
Lionheart. Yeah. He was English king. His successor was King John, right? And King John, I think in 1197, was married to Eleanor of Aquitaine,
and she was the one
that gave the best dowry in the history of fucking dowries. When she was like, "Yeah, I'll turn up, boss bitch this stuff, right?" Yeah, but also, here's the whole of the west of France as a dowry to you, the King of England, and that's where England's initial ownership and claim to the west of France and Gascony in particular came from. Now they definitely wouldn't have been drinking Margaux. This Margaux wasn't about at this point. It was still under fucking water at this point, Margaux. Until the Dutchies came along, they just were like, "Hey, we know what to do with it, like a dike."
It's like, oh, these wines are particularly good over here. You know, all that marshland over there. Who's good with water? Like a Nederland there.
They're Nederlands.
They called up what's his name? Duimpje, Dikkie van Duimpje. Sticks the finger in the dike. Okay, come over here and you drain this water for us. Can make some more money and we'll give you a slice.
The crucial thing,
Dutch accent.
How are you unable to do a Dutch accent? I don't know what the fuck's going on there. But the truth of the matter is that none of Bordeaux would have existed without the English and the Dutch, which Champagne wouldn't have existed without the English. We are incredibly important whilst actually manufacturing nothing of our own, but simply because we are dirty, filthy booze hounds. And so we consume an awful lot of
like a drink, don't you?
We enjoy a
like
booze.
A drink, don't you?
A little bit of screen sharing, the start of the screen sharing for you. So we are in Bordeaux, just here. Now, as you mentioned, this entire region here, Gascony and all of most 40, I think it was 40% of the west of France was given over when Eleanor of Aquitaine became Queen of England, married to King John. But specifically, the most important thing was the mouth of the Gironde River, as this access took you all the way into the southwest, the Entre-deux-Mers, and all the way into the center of France. Just there, which is pretty mad. But this whole region here, there was some in Bas-Médoc up here. There was some viticulture going on back there, back in Roman times, but it's pretty sparse. Most of this area here was all used for making corn, if they could grow anything, but mostly it was marshland and they could do the sum total fuck all with it. Until they realized, well, what's going on down here? The Libonnais, as they're referred to, they were making some pretty good wines. You might have heard of some of these just around here, Saint-Emilion and Pomerol and places like that. Then Fronsac and all of their sweet wines and the wider Grave region here. But this bit up here, which arguably is the key drivers of Bordeaux around the world, did not exist until the duchies were engaged to come along and to dam it all and to manage it all and drain it all. And when they drained it all, they found this incredibly thin topsoil, because they drained it. Most of it was washed away by river action. Underneath that was a load of gravel. That gravel was about 7 meters deep. And so in order for these vines to be able to, once they planted vines because that's what the region was known for. But when they did, because the gravel was so deep at about 7 meters, 26 feet, it meant that in order to fucking get there, the vines had to descend their roots so deep that through all of this gravel in order to get the constant, pretty meager water that was there, that was still there, because everything had been manufactured and managed. That deep vines make for great wines, you know.
Yeah, it intensifies. Well, it gives the wine more intensity.
Yeah, we're looking specifically here at Margaux, number 8 there, if you guys can see that one. Just there. Interestingly, Saint-Julien, Saint-Estèphe up there, which is quite austere, and then Pauillac, which also has a lot of very famous wines.
I've got some Pauillac in my wine rack.
One of the big ones?
Not particularly. I've got the best I can do is a second growth in my wine rack. Yeah,
it's better than
it's actually the first one of that, but an older vintage.
Better than a kick in the cunt, isn't it?
That's right. You know, saying that for the right occasion.
But that Margaux just there, the wider Haute-Medoc just there. These are all kind of like grouped into the 1855 classification. If you look specifically though at Margaux, it's where we see some pretty wild fucking names here. Some which you will know and some that you wish you will not. So Chateau Margaux, which is right. Where's Chateau Margaux? Why am I missing?
Probably right in the center of Margaux, right?
You would hope so, right?
I can see Brancantignac.
Brancantignac and Kerwan as well.
It's the third growth, yeah.
Where the fuck is?
I've tried Brancantignac. That was my sort of like light bulb moment when I get to French wine.
Yeah.
That beat the Pine Ridge on the day. It was I was drinking.
Yeah, and quite convincingly as well.
That was my light bulb moment.
Now we're down here. So almost just separated from, in terms of vineyards, from the wider sort of Margaux region, and that's Chateau d'Ozac just there. I've got quite a cute little video, cute in as much as it's pretty cringy.
Oh dear.
This is d'Ozac. It goes off the rails. Definitely. None of these guys are actors, but that's quite an interesting sort of flat land you can expect, because it's been managed, it's been created from nowhere. Hiya, hello. Caressing it. Classic Cabernet though. Like there's loads of side eye in this video, which is brilliant. And there's one bit where they're tasting it, where they're looking at each other, and they hate each other.
There's the vibrating selection tables.
Yeah.
Two different selection processes. One that happens before destemming, and by the way, all the wines have got that colour. The voyage of the blend.
So this is a bit weird, but it's also telling because so China. There's a promotional video for a Margot. China. What's this got to do with anything? Fuck all. Apart from the fact they're trying to sell their wine in China. Yeah, exactly right. And as you notice, the next thing they do is Japan.
What? What's going on there, man?
Precision there. A little bit of a cultural precision. You drink the wine or you become the samurai. Miyamoto Musashi. And then don't even know what the fuck's going on here. Now they're in America. Again, where are they trying to sell all their wines? We're not going to go too far into this one now, because this is the best bit. This is the best bit of this video, where he and she, these guys are not actors. There's a lot of side eye. Like, wait, oh what? Oh, sip it, and he's like, side eye again. And then finally they realise that they're being slightly wacky. Love it, absolutely love it. But yeah, the hand sorting process. I mean, regardless of what tier of wine they do, and this is the second wine. They've got the Aurore de Dozac.
Yes, that's.
And they've got another couple a couple of ones as well. And you would expect there to be a fairly rigorous sorting process to go into this.
There's a similar kind of care and attention that happens to all of their wines. So I think the biggest difference is the vineyards. So all the vineyards, and then the oak aging is longer for the first wine. Yeah, that's.
So interestingly, I've got Rebecca might said it smell of tomato vines, and now I've gone back to it. Yeah, it's definitely got. Actually, I'm getting even further than that. I'm getting sort of a slow cooked tomatoey sort of sweetness from it as well.
It smells quite boozy. Reminds me of like
for me that booziness is
alcohol almost.
That booziness is for me is giving it more of a perfumed nature rather than necessarily out and out aggressive alcohol, but it is quite elevated, and on a cool climate red wine it's probably more pronounced because you don't maybe have too much Merlot. I think Barry might be putting his own wine as second in there.
48% Cabernet, 52% Merlot. The Labastide is made from younger vines, between 15 and 20 years old. Like I said, it's all the way back to the 1200s. First mention of the Dozac and say was by the Benedictine monks, like most things back in the day, from the Sainte Croix Abbey, which is in Bordeaux in 1545. First sort of like written evidence. And then what we see a lot in Bordeaux, unlike in Burgundy, in Champagne, that certain rows of vineyards are owned by multiple people. It's usually owned by one family, and the background is wine merchants. 1855 got the classification of fifth growth, and is now still family owned by the Johnston family.
Really?
The Johnstons, a powerful family who owned Du Cru Bacayou, which is another relatively famous Bordeaux house, one of the finest vineyards in the Medoc.
So I just wanted to say this is one of the things that they were talking about the universal, the thing which really elevates Cabernet, and it talks a lot. What is quite important is What makes Cabernet Sauvignon remarkable to taste is not primarily its exact fruit flavor, although that is often likened to black currants, its aroma, sometimes to green bell peppers, but its structure and ability to provide the perfect vehicle for individual vintage characteristics, winemaking, and élevage techniques, local physical attributes, or terroir. In this respect, it resembles the equally popular and almost ubiquitous Chardonnay, to whose vanilla Cabernet Sauvignon is often compared as chocolate. It is Cabernet Sauvignon's remarkable concentration of phenolics that really sets it aside from most other widely grown wine varietals, and therefore easily capable of producing deeply colored wines worthy of long maceration and wood aging for the long term. Over the centuries, it has demonstrated a special but no means exclusive affinity for densely textured French oak. But the particular appeal of Cabernet Sauvignon lies much less in primary fruit aromas than in the much more subtle flavor compounds that evolve over years of bottle aging from the complex interaction between compounds derived from fruit, fermentation, alcohol, and oak. That time in oak is one thing that Cabernet values above anything else in its classic heartland of the western part of France, particularly Bordeaux, but also down into Languedoc, where it's often blended in. It doesn't really thrive. They don't really grow many other places in all of France. It had to go around the world to find its other heartlands. But that length of time in bottle is something where and that was that your wowzers epiphany moment with the brand Cantagnac was because it was drinking that wine at the right age. Do you think this is too young?
I think so, yeah. It is. Everything is relatively aggressive for me. The acidity is very pronounced.
You are hungover like a little.
I'm okay, to be honest. I'm just a little bit delicate, a little bit cheesed. But yeah, I did have a Macadis today. Just very unlike me. When you just, anyway. But yeah, it's young for me. It can easily do another 10 years and soften out all those sort of like volatile esters of tannin, acid.
It's the reason why this wine is second wine, but of a fifth growth, Margaux Chateau. Okay, so second wine of that is still something really worthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a sub 50 pounds, 48 quid. Okay. Shani says, defo get tomato vines on the nose. Tastes like unripe stone fruit, sharp on the finish. Things it needs another year or two. Rebecca says this is lovely on its own rather than with food. Definitely more elegant than the booze would imply. I think as both of those things can exist in the same glass of wine. I think it's a wine that I think will only improve over time.
Oh, of course, yeah.
In another 5 years, this wine will then be 10 years old, and you're then talking about something slightly different. So I went out for a staff do with the team, went down to Mackie Mayer and went to Ad Hoc, and had a Chateau Cantermel, which is outside of all of the kind of classic appellations, but just in the Medoc. And it was 2012 of that Cantermel, and it was absolutely stunning. That extra time in bottle is irreplaceable.
Crucial almost.
Yeah, that's the difference maker, and that's something that Cabernet shows off more than anything else. Other wines can perhaps. I mean, we're about to drink a 2021 Pine Ridge, which was also drinking really, really well. But it was drinking delicious. But again, it's one of those things that in 10 years, that's going to be an entirely different beast completely, and will have 10x an order of magnitude increased in price off the back of it.
I've got at least like 12, 15 bottles of Cab, but just resting at home because I know that they're just not going to be ready. I've got some Bordeaux that I've invested in for the birthday of my children. So when I turn 18, and I'll go fuck off now and I'll drink it.
Do you want a glass of this? We should have thought about that 18 years ago, shouldn't you?
I've got some Napa Valley stuff as well, which was a gift from my brother-in-law in the Netherlands. It's a chunky bottle. It looks special. It was 2015, so I'm going to give it a little longer.
Yeah, French wines, we often take the mickey out of them, but I think it's probably just because they insist on making wine in a certain way in order, and then the burden of bottle aging is on you as the consumer. But the truth of the matter is that they're not going to have room to hold back all of those wines for all those vintages, and then by the time it arrives to the marketplace, nobody here is going to be able to afford it without, foregoing a mortgage payment or something like that. Sean says, Baz, did you choose your cap to match Tom's shirts, or is that happy coincidence?
Happy coincidence.
Happy coincidence, because I only decided to put this on as I was looking at my thing. Oh my, I can't wear a hoodie on a tasting. But I think my honest assessment, I think, probably is that, it's one of the things that you do have to take the time to age.
It's very Francais, isn't it? It's like buy the wine now, and then you
don't drink it now.
You do the aging.
Yeah,
you do it. I'm not doing it. You do it. So because I was out with Rafa all of last week, and they obviously make a very, very, very big point of actually keeping the wines back until they feel is ready to drink. So it's a little bit different, isn't it? And he just take the mickey out of that a little bit,
Yeah, and
he says it every time.
Let's be honest, it's a justifiable Mickey take, and it's entirely you'd be like, yeah, well, of course the French do that because they're incredibly French about it. Like, no. We get it, totally get it, understood, no bother. But by the same token, when you do taste a wine that has that sort of decade under its belt, it does have a very different energy to it. I mean, so we're going to move on now to wine number 2, which is Cabernet, in as much as a quarter of the wine is Cabernet rather than half, like the last one. So this is sort of a fair enough thing, but it's not something that we tend to associate with New World expressions of Cabernet. But when that little paragraph I read out there was referring to the wider Cabernet region, but everything in that is seen through the lens of its heartland of Bordeaux.
Yeah, I guess.
So
these are all riffs it's a riff on the Bordeaux blenders, but Shiraz being the main grape for it.
Well, actually, interestingly, it's that blend of Shiraz and Cabernet doesn't necessarily 2017. Oh.
I don't even have to stick my nut. It smells incredible. So black currant tea.
But I was reading something else about the combination of Shiraz and Cabernet is pretty where the more rounded Shiraz that comes from the warmer climates of Australia needs a little bit of that kind of sinewy, punchy Cabernet in order to make the perfect blend. So we're perhaps trying it now.
It was Stephen's dad who actually planted some Cabernets. So it's the Cyril Henschke. So he made an expression of wine that just got, I think it's 50-year-old vine now. So to do
is the Cyril 100% cab?
That's 100% cab. Yeah, I've got a bottle of that at home, but I remember tasting it once and it was so tight. It needs a long time to age. I'm pretty sure it's 2015. So yeah, again, there's nowhere near ready. So yeah,
I've got another nice little video from Henschke, but it's not quite as cringe as the.
It is up there. It is up there with one of my favorite wineries. 100% one of my favorite wineries from the New World. It's everything that I've tasted from them, particularly on the red side, though. I've got to say, I've tried some of the whites, and
it wasn't.
They've not blown me away.
We stock it, and we have some diehard fans of it, but wasn't massively blown away by the Peggy's Hill Riesling. But that's mainly because I prefer that. Cabernet style. And then for those that don't, Sean, for example, who's on this tasting, absolutely loves that Peggy's Hill Riesling.
Do you like the Chard? Is it called Julius the Chard, or is that a semi?
No, the Julius is also Riesling, but lower grade than the.
But they do a Chardonnay, and I wanted it to be shouty, but it wasn't. It was like really sort of like
austere,
shabbly style. Like I didn't want this.
Tight and fucking and stingy, and you're just like, yeah.
But they're reds, all the way from sort of like the in inverted commas entry levels. The what's it called, Henry VII.
Well, yeah, I mean the Henry VII is only about a third cheaper than this, but I don't think they do much lower than that. But yeah, like you say, their entry level stuff blows most other producers out of the water. We were going to originally do the straight Cabernet Sauvignon Serpico by Mitelo on this tasting.
All right, yeah. I remember not blowing me away.
Well, it was young and it was boozy, and so it was a little bit.
Is this the current vintage that we're on? Yeah, stock that you've received.
No, the current vintage, according to Henschke, is 2019. This is the 2017. It might just be that in Straya they're drinking the 2019. But this is the Caneton Euphonium. We've been calling it the Keynton Euphonium after, I guess, Keynesian economics, but it's not pronounced Keynton. It's pronounced Caneton. The Caneton Euphonium.
Don't tell me what to do,
blend.
mate. It's Guinness in the phone. Right.
Immediately,
Yeah,
well,
wow.
firstly, this is 62% Shiraz, 24% Cabernet, 11% Cab Franc, and I think 4% Petit Verdot, right?
In the Cabernet.
So, yes, it's unsurprising it's going to be radically different in price. It doesn't have that Merlot play.
Yeah,
you know, we are only a year older rather with this
look
wine.
at the difference in color,
but it's a year and a half technically because this would have been harvested at the beginning of 2017.
That's right. Yeah.
And the Margot would have been harvested towards the end of 2018.
Every single time I have a Henschke wine, it's just that the packed with aroma. It's
the tasting notes coming through from you guys on Zoom are fantastic. Let us know what you're tasting on YouTube.
Not particularly staining.
By the way, hi to Sarah who can't join us live, so we'll be watching on YouTube tomorrow. We're talking to you from the past. How's it going? Shani says, smells beautiful, like summer fruit compote mixed with freshly spun candy floss. Fucking,
hello,
you goddamn poet. Rebecca said, and Mike, the smell absolutely hits you. Gorgeous. Wow. Mike says Ribena, and I'm still getting some woody herbs. There's absolutely loads of that herbaceousness.
It's quite green for me. It's got
vegetables, which will be the Cabernet and the, what did I say it was called? Well, what did I say it was called?
Oh yeah,
that. Methoxypyrazine.
Right, so we learned a new word, ladies and gents.
He did. He fucking did. I listen to wine podcasts now.
Do you? Which ones do you listen to?
Not going to tell you because otherwise everyone will realise that all of my chat has come word for word from somebody else's.
Oh, right. Okay. Is that what it is? Yeah. Did wine for normal people.
I do like that one.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
I do like. She knows what she's talking about. She does absolutely butcher French words. I think I've said this on one of our
sessions before. She doesn't take it lightly.
And when she gets called out on it, she's like, "Don't speak French. If you don't like it, don't even listen to this podcast."
Yeah,
because she what you call there's no T and there Piedmont is one Piedmont but also Saint-Emilion is then Saint-Emilion. S-A-N-N-E-M. Anyway, she's very New Jersey. She also has a very successful wine podcast, so maybe we should shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
taking the mickey out of her, but anyway,
I'm not taking the mickey, but I love.
Oh no, we definitely are.
Okay,
but there's
I think they're a good source.
Yeah, definitely, and good for people when almost no matter what your level of wine is.
Yeah,
you know, make complicated things sound very comprehensible, which is a skill in itself. The color of this is radically different. That with there being no Merlot in this one, and then the Shiraz in there, and the extra time in the bottle, that brick and garnet coloration is far more pronounced than the sort of the purple and ruby that we had in the Margot.
Quite earthy as well, and an earthiness from it.
Yeah,
a bit of petting zoo, a bit of like potting soil. Herbaceous, yeah, I get like a bit of eucalyptus,
loads of black pepper from the Shiraz.
Yeah, definitely.
There's also sort of a bit of cedar or a bit of like a humidor, sort of expensive, dry. But that wood is really like, because I don't think the humidor is made out of expensive wood. What it's made from in the middle of it is a very, very dry wood that doesn't retain moisture, so that you can then keep cigars in there and via other methods keep the moisture in them. If it was super moist wood, your cigars would fall to pieces of moss and rot and mildew. So the wood that's in the middle of it, it feels like balsa wood. It's really, really light, but it is also scented as well. It's that kind of sort of cedar.
I hate cigars.
I was trying to inhale them and therefore go. And they take fucking 3 hours. You look at me here. I can smoke my stogie wherever I want because I'm starved, not like you. Arnie.
Brilliant.
It's got a real concentration and vibrancy of aroma. It tastes like I want to fucking drink it, baby. Let's go. Cheers. Canes and Euphonium. Weight and a power, but also isn't abrasive and aggressive.
That's very nice.
Yeah,
Very, very, very nice. A lot softer than the previous one, even though this is still because I destroyed my palate last night with copious amounts of champagne and Cabernet and
don't run out of fucking steam. We've got paying customers.
Oh, yeah,
I'm tasting you, son of a bitch.
It's all good, but it's still tasting quite tannic to me.
So for me, the tannins in this are they're actually nicely enveloping, as opposed to being sort of quite tight and aggressive. They give the wine a structure and a longevity and a potency that that elevates it slightly above. It's got some really nice tasting notes: black pepper, black and red currants, savory white pepper, anise and tarragon. That's sort of like
nice.
tarragon, sort of like
licoricey,
yeah,
anise,
exactly, delicious. Like says, fresh and buoyant acidity and exceptionally long, fine tannic finish, which I couldn't agree more for either.
The tannins are quite pronounced, so it's not just me being all where. So is that part of the tasting notes, is it?
Yes. So every single grape for this came from their Eden Valley vineyards.
It's from their own estate, isn't it?
From their own estate. So they have 4 vineyards: Hill of Grace, I think the Cyril Henschke.
The Cyril Vineyard, they've got the Hill of Grace, they've got the Mount Edelstone Vineyard. Those are the 2 museum vineyards.
And then they've got one down in Adelaide Hills as well. I've got a map. Should we have a look? Should we have a look at a map?
Let's have a look at the map.
Let's have a look at map. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, but I always find quite amusing is when they talk about a New World with Henschke, but these guys have been making wine since 1868. There's 7 generations sorry, 6 generations they're now on. So Stephen and Prue, generation 5. Stephen Henschke, his wife is very conveniently one of the most amazing viticulturalists in the world. Wins.
I wonder how they met.
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe tasting lovely wines.
And both their sons are now being incorporated into the winery. Yeah, you ready?
I will be in just 1 second. Yes, here we go. Piddly pow. Bosh and ready. So we're up here, specifically the Barossa. The Barossa is separated from the Great Australian Bights down here, as opposed to one of my favorite appellations in all of the world of wine, but particularly of Australia, McLaren Vale, which is right coastal right there. We are a little bit, if not significantly further inland. The Barossa is these 2 valleys, the Barossa Valley, which is a valley, and the Eden Valley, which I don't think you can really class as a valley, if I'm brutally honest. Here we have a breakdown of it. This is the Eden Valley just here, and then there's the High Eden sub-region just there. Some nice little breakdowns there. Hill of Grace from 1860 is just there, number 1. Okay. Penfold's Block 42 from 1888 is just there in the Barossa. Sirio, as I guess how you pronounce that, 1850 Grenache, number 3, which is right there. So most of these are sat in the Barossa. Elderton Command Shiraz, Yalumba and Langmel are 4, 5, and 6 respectively.
All the founding families of Australian viticulture.
There we go. But Caneton is obviously the name which is Keenaton. Caneton is the town that gives its name to this particular expression.
Well, that's where the homestead is.
And there's Eden Valley Vineyard just there, which is about 460 meters above sea level. Now, I've shown this map before. It's quite interesting because it's how hot. The amount of sunlight and the overall sort of temperature degree days. So red is where we're talking about some serious heat. Obviously almost too much for particularly the Cabernet wouldn't do very well here. The other things that you get from Eden Valley, like Riesling, you would not be able to grow these here. It's just too hot. But Shiraz would probably go quite well. Maybe you get a Grenache or something like that would go quite well as well, which likes that temperature, that intensity to make a boozy, fighty wine. But here in Eden Valley, a lot cooler and a lot higher in altitude as well. There's Caneton there. There's Eden Valley just there. And here are their vineyards: Hill of Grace, Mount Edelstone, and Eden Valley. They are their 3 Eden Valley sub-region things, and then they've also got Lenswood.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I think is that their Chardonnay then?
I don't know, mate. To be honest with
I
you,
think so.
we can have a little swatch.
I want to pull
But
that
this
shit
is
up.
the specific Eden Valley Vineyards, about 500 meters above sea level. It's quite unassuming, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not unattractive. It clearly gets a lot of sun, but because of that altitude, you probably get quite a decent diurnal shift.
Yeah.
Between daytime heat and nighttime cool. We know that makes for good fucking wine. We know that they're the right conditions. They did originally in between the vineyards, in between the vines, kind of looked more like this. It was really cultivated in order to reduce any kind of what's the fucking word I'm looking for here, Barry? Weed growth, right? Mm-hmm. But then what they then did is they then started to encourage local grasses to grow, and now those grasses fill it. And if you look at the actual Hill of Grace vineyard, it looks almost like a lawn. There's that much grass there, but there's all wildflower and grasses that don't
biodiversity.
Actually,
but I think they actually, the type of grass is quite special as well. It's something that they had to sort of reinstate. It's like an ancient grass. I remember reading something about that by Prue bringing that back into the sort of like original state of the vineyards. Obviously, that being back from the late 1800s. Yeah, really, really cool.
So Eden Valley, located in the cooler part of Mount Lofty Ranges in the Barossa. Vines planted their own roots. This is quite interesting, is they also on contour planting, so they plant with the contours as opposed to planting against them in order to stop soil erosion. When you're that high up above, you get a lot of wind, but also when it does rain, it rains real heavy in a real short period of time, and it can wash vineyards clear of topsoil. But by planting along the contours, it stops that flow of water from washing all the topsoil away. They're planted about 3.4 meters between rows, 2 meters between. Where's that thing it mentioned about grass? Right, so originally the ground was cultivated for weed control. Nowadays the vineyard has a permanent sod culture of early maturing perennial rye and cocksfoot grasses in the row. Wheat straw mulch is used under the vines to retain soil moisture, build up organic matter, and inhibit weed growth. So they literally just take wheat straw and dump it there, and it stops anything else from growing. It also little greeblies are all blah, 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 so it's all organic matter in there, and it stops any actual weeds from growing up in between the vines. There we go. Interesting. Tell us more.
Beautiful balanced wine. So yeah, like I said, these guys are one of the founding members. Cyril is really the one that sort of put Henschke on the map. He was the one that sort of stayed away from fortifying Shiraz, which is something with the founding families used to do a lot, so that the wines could make the journeys on the ships to. So
it would literally be a Shiraz port.
Yeah, that's it. So they will use a fortification spirit, which is usually a grape alcohol, so like an eau de vie. Yeah, I know, right? It's a stunning wine. Stephen took over in 1979. They're famous for their museum wines, the Hill of Grace and the Mount Edelstone, which I've both had the pleasure of tasting. Both phenomenal wines.
Mount Edelstone is now a permanent stock in our even finer wine section in the shop.
All right, nice.
Yeah, Hill of Grace, I don't know. I'll see if I can get any over Christmas, but I doubt it.
Ridiculous money, isn't it? But they've got like first generation Johan Henschke, so they come from Polish descendants. Fled their country and ended up in Australia. There's like an original barn in Keenerton, and they're sort of like built with stone and mud. It's like that's the only stuff you had back in those days, but it's still there. And they built a winery right next to it in 1952. The Shiraz comes from 50-year-old vines. Grown in Eden and Barossa, then it's blended with Cabernet, Cab Franc, so Cabernet Sauvignon and Franc, and then a little bit of Merlot. So it's in essence a riff on a Bordeaux blend,
but with a good chunk of their staple. Shiraz.
Yeah, exactly. There's a thread throughout the winemaking with all these wines. By the way, everything gets harvested in early hours of the morning, and it's nice and cool, so you don't get those, cooking flavors straight away.
Is this the gaff where they've got like everything is vinified separately and they've got like 57 temperature controlled?
Yeah.
Or is that the Saint Julien?
No, it's a Saint Julien with like double walls.
Double walls.
Yeah, that's
so it can be really, really low
state of the art stuff.
I'm guessing Henschke.
They do it in cement
concrete.
and concrete. Yeah. So two different types of fermentation vessels, one stainless steel and one they're beeswax lined.
Yeah.
And whenever you look at their website, it looks amazing because Shiraz is so purple as well. Stains all the concrete. I don't know if you can look that shit up.
I have a little something, but before I just do that, I'm just going to pour myself a little touch more. I'd pour you some more, but you're like, so what? So you can swirl it around your mouth and spit it out. You fucking.
Well, I'll drink a little bit.
Here's a nice little video from the guys at Henschke's YouTube channel. Not cringe, as opposed to the Dozak, which was.
Oh,
fuck off.
6th generation as well. So yeah, okay. So just a little bit on the winemaking. Morning harvest. Each parcel is vinified, picked and vinified separately. So there's lots of selection process going on as well. Destemmed all of the wines today.
The Caton Euphonium began its life.
Sorry.
Right.
The Caton Euphonium began its life as Henschke Dry Red. So my father Cyril made a red wine from the local relatives in the district. The village was called Caton and named after the Caines family. We decided that we wanted the wine to be more representative of the region. And we had the 3 historic instruments from the family brass band, the clarinet, the cornet and the euphonium. The euphonium is such a beautiful instrument, and the name matched much better.
Interesting thing there is...
The Henschke family band, the brass band, was established in 1888 by Paul Gotthard. There was a young boy in the band who was my grandfather. He was about 10 and he played the big drum to keep the beat for the band. My grandfather and Paul Alfred then took over the brass band, and he continued the family band, going for many years as well. Euphonium is a brass wind instrument, somewhat like a trumpet, just much more beautiful looking and a deeper tone.
And the old one we have is a different
this is
pitch, so it's got a lovely softness about it.
It was a straight Shiraz from the 50s right through to the 80s. But as we planted more Cabernet Sauvignon, we kept on thinking we have other red wines in our portfolio that are straight Shirazes. It'd be nice for this wine just to be a little bit more savoury, a bit more food friendly. So we did a trial and we blended some Cabernet Sauvignon into the wine, and we really liked the texture and the structure and the fine grained tannins.
Well, the Caton Euphonium has this beautiful plushness of Shiraz and the Merlot, and then a really beautiful savoury finish from all the Cabernets.
The heart and soul of this wine is our Eden Valley vineyard that my father Cyril planted in 1968. I see that the spice of Eden Valley, the sage and pepper of Eden Valley, the dark fruits, the blackberry fruits, but then there's a sort of lovely texture that the Barossa Shiraz brings into it as well, and a nice mouthfeel and fine grained tannins from the Cabernet. I think people love Caton Euphonium because it's very approachable, and we give it some bottle age before we release it. This is a 2019 vintage. It just has that sort of approachability, has that lovely savouriness and food friendliness, but it's got elegance and deliciousness about it.
There we go. So a really nice video, that one actually. But interestingly, so it was originally called just the Dry Red, Henschke Dry Red, from the 1950s when his dad started doing it, all the way through to the 1980s? I think he did, 1980s. And so what they then tried to do was to use some of the other tools they had at their disposal and to give it more of a local feel as they started to plant more Cabernet. So they then added Cabernet Sauvignon into the mix in order to elevate it. And Cabernet is a wine that seems to do that. You add, one thing which I thought was quite interesting is it's a mark of having made it in the red wine production world, especially anywhere, with the exception of England, Luxembourg, and where else? England, Luxembourg, and somewhere else cold where they make wine. Cabernet is always planted. because it is that sign within the wine world that you have made it. If you can grow a Cabernet that will compare against other Cabernets, because it has that real, it's terroir expressive, but it is very, very much its own thing. It will remain its own thing. Cabernet is a grape that transcends region. If you can make a wine, you can compare it back to its homeland in Grave. You can compare it back to its Bordeaux roots and all the rest of it. And so Cabernet is a sign. Can you do it? Are you worth a fuck? You know, are you worth paying a bit of attention to, or are you just a flash in the pan Johnny come lately who can just knock out big spicy Syrahs and Shirazes?
I mean, yeah. I guess, yeah. That's one way to put it. Big. What Shiraz is? Beautiful wine. Is this where we're now going to put them against each other, 1 and 2? Is it?
Yeah. Let me hear you, ladies and gents. Wine 1 or wine 2?
Wine number 1, of course. Clear winner.
Barry, you are a fucking liar. Sean said this is beautiful. Blackberries and apples, really smooth on the finish. Perfect autumn winter wine. Could probably force it down in spring and summer too. I'm entirely unsurprised.
If you have to.
Entirely unsurprised. Right, where are you sitting on 1 or 2?
Yeah, the second one is just with that little bit of age. I think the blend is just a little bit more my kind of style as well.
Yeah.
I like the savory components. I think the first one is just a little bit touch too young. Maybe needs a little bit of food for it to be a better drinking experience. But yeah.
Well, we now know what that actually means, though, don't we?
Yeah, the first one wins. Yeah, fine.
Sean says 2, no contest. Rebecca and Mike is a 2, and Rebecca is 1.
Thanks, Rebecca.
So there we go. Pretty sure she didn't do it for you, mate.
I can still thank you.
Okay,
It's very nice.
So let's have a little crack at wine number 3.
I'm excited for this.
Really, really am. I've never tried a Saint Julien before. I've heard of Léoville Poiferret and Léoville Las Casses and other kind of exciting producers.
All deuxième growths.
Deuxième growths. The reason why Saint Julien
classic
does not have the prestige that it deserves, because it's what it's referred to as it's maybe the most homogenous of the appellations of Bordeaux. What do we mean by that? It means that it has the most consistency of soil and of anywhere in things. So you can make good wines everywhere in Saint Julien. The reason why it doesn't have the reputation of maybe of Pauillac or of Margaux is simply because it doesn't have any of these first growth expressions. What do we mean by that? Well, 1855, King Napoleon III decided he wanted to classify Bordeaux. It's quite complicated. It's quite political. It's quite nonsense, really, because there were lots of places that never made it. Nothing in Saint-Emilion made it into this. They had to make up their own system of classification. None of Pomerol made it. So Petrus.
It's still
not recognized by it. Le Pin, I think, is Pomerol as well, isn't it? Is Chateau Le Pin?
Yeah.
Or is that Pauillac? That might be Pauillac.
Chateau Parma is also
Parma,
yeah, part of it. Yeah.
It's a bit of a nonsense, really. And what it came down to was in 1855 when he decided to do it, which wines were recognized and lauded as the best quality and which ones were making the most money. So that sounds a bit fucking suspect to us. Saint Julien doesn't have any first growth wines, but it does have 4 exceptional second growth wines, of which we're going to taste the Pavillon de Léoville Poiferret, which is the second wine from that house. It's then an 80 quid wine, so we're definitely not we're not stepping down.
Oh, is it? Wow.
We're not stepping down in terms of our quality, but it's not the first wine from it's not Chateau de Léoville Poiferret.
How much does that go for?
Well, it's enough. Not too much to throw onto a last minute tasting, that's for sure. Again, mainly Cabernet driven.
60. I literally just put
57%.
No. I've got the actual vintage 20. Oh no, we're doing 16, aren't we?
It's 16.
It's 16. Okay.
So 57% Cabernet, 26% Merlot, 10% Petit Verdot, 7% Cabernet Franc.
The previous vintage was completely different.
Yeah, which is the fascinating thing,
Completely
actually. And it was also the same if you look at the Keynton Euphonium as well. You look at their their breakdown of the Shiraz in 2017, and then you saw on that video that we showed is dropped to 52%. It's nearly lost its more than half share as you change the vintages. There's not a huge amount of information on the Léoville Poiferret thing about this. Their vintage list only goes back to 2018, and we're 2 years below that. And this bottle I've got here, which is available to buy, is 2015. So, or if we find 2020, by the way, 2020 across Bordeaux, but in particular here, is referred to as the vintage of the century.
Wow.
Already.
Wow.
It is apparently, it was, and I seem to remember that being the chat around the time.
Well, it was because there was no traffic and stuff, right? Because
that might have affected particulants, but the thing which really did it was
it's quite warm as well. Remember?
It was hot.
Yeah.
It was 2020 was unbelievable because the heat during the
remember when we were all locked
winter
down,
and spring
really
they
hot,
were mild,
doing this every week.
mild and rainy at the beginning of 2020. Warm, sunny weather accompanied until harvest time. First week of picking saw the thermometer easily reach 30, resulting in wonderful concentration of juice in the berries. So 2020 vintage of everything from Bordeaux is one that you should snap up as quickly as you
2020 can. Is a year that we want to forget, but in the wine world, it's definitely something to invest in. You can get some pretty good stuff. Yeah, so these guys have got a rich history. So one of the 14 Deuxième Grand Cru classes within that Napoleonic classification system, which is, a lot of bollocks really, but the history dates back to 1638. It's the second wine, so like the Chateau d'Auzac, this is harvested from younger vine matter between 15 and 20 years old, which means that gives the wine then more of an opportunity to be drank at or enjoyed at a younger
exactly.
stage.
To be fair, though, we are in 2016. We are looking at a wine which is nearly 8 years old. So we're approaching where this should be drunk. As mentioned, Saint-Julien, like a lot of the other Haute-Medoc region, was drained by the Dutch at the end of the 1600s. So it's got a really, really deep, predominantly gravel soils, which encourage the vines to really penetrate as deep as possibly can. As you say, that gives complexity and depth of flavor to the wines that are eventually produced with intensity and refinement. 2016, as opposed to 2020, which was lauded as something. First half of 2016 was characterized by periods of excessive rainfall, cool, damp conditions, and the threat of downy mildew. Required vigilance. The vineyard's bud burst was homogeneous and rapid. 4-day period of warm weather brought that on, and the end of June brought sun and heat. The vine struggled to complete a delayed ripening season in the intense heat, but was saved by rainfall in mid-September, which refined the quality and richness of the tannins. Grapes are harvested at optimum ripeness starting on October the 5th.
That's when harvest started.
Yeah,
it's quite late.
Yeah,
that's quite late. Yeah.
And it was that.
Just that optimal ripeness.
It's really good because that allows. I mean, it's weird. Cabernet Sauvignon originally was used by a lot of Bordeaux growers as something called a hedge. You might have heard of hedge funds.
Yeah.
Right. So
making you the money, is it?
Sorry?
Is it because it's making you the dollar?
No, it's because it's fucking insurance. Cabernet Sauvignon is an insurance grape because you can leave it later to harvest later. Because you can leave it to harvest later, it can rescue your vintage if your Cabernet Franc, which originally would have been the predominant Cabernet planted, fails, or your Merlot doesn't produce what you needed to produce. You've got the Cabernet as like a sort of in your back pocket. But because of that ability to harvest it later, right, it can be your insurance, but it can also lead you to a wine that you only have one option, which is to make a big punchy, boozy wine. Because with that later harvest, Cabernet Sauvignon is very vigorous. It likes to grow. It likes to ripen. And it will ripen with a lot of sugar ripeness as well as phenolic ripeness. So that late harvest might rescue your vintage, but it might make a wine which is maybe slightly more abrasive and aggressive than you perhaps wanted it to be. It will rescue you, but at what cost is why Bordeaux producers are slightly hesitant with Cabernet. They have to use it. It's integral. but it might just be the beast that you feed. You feed too much of that, feed the wolf too much, and all of a sudden it will come for you. Do you know what I mean? It's like Cabernet is pretty ruthless in that regard, which I thought was fascinating as well.
It looks very, very similar to the first wine. So you get like lots of youthfulness within the wine, but the dark and inky, the staining legs again, the sort of wine, how it is to the inside of the glass. There's no sort of like discoloration of any sort of like garnet colorations on the outside. Relatively slow legs. We're on
13.5.
13.5. So there's a whole % less.
Which is a
That's good.
Big deal.
That's a good thing.
big deal.
A good thing in my opinion. Wow. It's a lot more
Super,
it's a lot more
super
elegant.
restrained.
a
I
lot
mean,
more elegant.
you know what this smells like, right? This smells like
I get way more aromas than wine number one.
this is kind of like the confidence that money gives you. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the confidence of, you know, it's softly spoken because it's got, you know, a battalion of musket men behind it, you know, as opposed to the confidence that comes from having a sword in each hand and you're going to cut your way like a Viking through whatever. This is the quiet, like, it doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to be, you know, it doesn't need to be rude, it doesn't need to be aggressive, it just needs to say, and it'll get its way because it's got fucking pots and pots of cash. This is wealth. This is landed gentry aristocracy worth of wine. This is like, yes, well, you could have your family put to death, but I won't do that because I'm a reasonable person. You know, it's kind of, it's got that sort of like arrogance, confidence, and slight sort of supercilious nature to it.
It's like
Expensive wood, and what was I reading earlier on? Poor people, rich people stay rich by looking poor, and poor people stay poor by looking rich. You know, this is like, yeah, we're rich. We don't need to try. We have a gold signet ring that's been passed down from family to family, and we're never going to be poor because we've got many, many acres. Ha ha ha!
Reminds me of an expensive perfume, like a Tom Ford perfume or something.
Yeah.
It's like a muskiness. There's reminds me of blackcurrant
That's a
licorice.
real
as well.
fucking treat. That.
Yeah, it smells incredible. There's a menthol note. There's that. So you know, like here in the UK, you guys like to put licorice with blackcurrant, don't you?
Blackjacks.
Yeah, is that what that is?
The only way to make fucking licorice in any way possible.
I've got some in the car, man, from Iceland. You want to try?
No.
Really good. There's that pencil shaving vibe as well.
Yeah.
Again,
It's amazing. It smells quite muscular. It smells quite sort of sturdy. But then with an incredible finesse. I can't wait to fucking taste it.
I get a little bit of fruit. I get a bit of florality as well. Violet. It's
yeah.
What's going on, man?
Higgins said pardon the violets earlier on, so shout out to Higgins.
Maybe lavender even. You know, it smells like a soap bar or something in a good way.
Expressive tannins, sinewy. Just that kind of real tightness and
really lively still, huh?
Yeah.
Still
fresh, super fresh.
Still a baby. Relatively reminiscent of wine number one. I find this one fresher, to be honest. I find it one more elevated.
It's definitely dry as a bone. Looking here, 0.3 grams of sugar per litre. So it is a dry boy.
Well, it's very lengthy. The finish is dry, but there's spice and there's a little bit of a nice elegance there as well. No residual sugar, right?
No, absolutely none. And as a consequence, it elevates its it's sort of its finesse, doesn't it?
Like savory, like truffle or mushroom on the finish. That's amazing.
Sean, it smells a little bit meaty, like that dried, chewy meat. Do you mean like biltong or jerky, something like that? I reckon, Mike, wood shavings and old books, pencil shavings and charcoal.
Yeah, I like it.
Loads of that going on there.
There's definitely a smokiness as well. So it reminded me of like fireworks. You know, like it's not gunpowder, is it? But what's inside? It's like when all these things now. firecracker.
A firecracker.
When they go off, they got a certain smell, don't they?
Yeah, for sure.
That's like that's something that I can pick out in here.
So again, once again, we're back in Bordeaux, just there,
Bordeaux.
and specifically, we're a little bit further north from where we were in Margaux. Still on that left bank of the Gironde, and here we have the sub-appellation, the appellation of Saint-Julien. These second growths, I think, are Langoa Barton, Léoville Barton, Léoville Poiferret, and it's not actually on there, so I might be wrong, but there's Léoville Las Casses, which I think is up here. And I think those 1, 2, 3, 4, close as they are to the Gironde, are the second growths. Though apparently big shout outs to Bechevel and Lagrange here, which is a relative altitude by comparison to the rest of them. But yeah, you compare it to the names like Lafitte, Lapin, Mouton, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. No, they're not. So they're certainly not the same sort of names as you might expect.
There's 5 first growths, there's 14 second growths, and 14 third growths. It goes all the way down to 5th, that's the lower of the highest classification, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, then everything else is just classed as Medoc or
Haute Medoc, yeah, exactly. The chances is fresh, definitely, but less eye-watering and smooth on the finish than wine number 1. So if we have a little look at another, fuck off. There you go. Another little vid for you.
Videos for every single one today.
I do, man. Yeah.
Oh wow.
The essential is invisible to the eye. Again, super flat. It's all been manicured. An interesting thing is the roots of Cabernet potentially came from a wine called Bourvin. It's called Bourvin. I'll tell you later. They're harvesting there in the winter to stop the extra growth because Cabernet is so vigorous that it will make more grapes than you want it to. It's amazing trying to do research on these producers and looking at
Your body wash is shit.
Trying to do research on these guys is a completely different beast than trying to do research on so much other stuff because there is so much information out there about these. Trying to do research on the Riocas, Bodegas Alea, and try and find their plot exactly. These guys, they give you the fucking latitude and longitude and fucking there you go. But Cabernet Sauvignon oranges will almost always remain shrouded in mystery. But its early synonyms, well established in the 17th century, is bidure or bidure, Bidure. This has led to the tempting theory that the direct descendants of the vine called Biturica, which Pliny wrote about, are named after the Bituriges or Butteriges tribe, which settled around the Bordeaux region. What's more likely, however, is that Bidore or Vidore is or Bidor or Vidor is a corruption of Vigne d'Or. So which Vigne vine, d'Or hard vine, because the hard named after the hardness of the vine's wood, which today makes it a really suitable candidate for machine harvesting, because the actual wood of the vine is really hard and really strong, right? But like also it's hardy and it will grow fucking anywhere as well. And it's always worth pointing out that not a single wine today has been anything other than hand harvested.
No, this is hand harvested and sorted twice, so they go for a rigorous sorting process. First on the table, and they'll destem all the fruit as well, because I guess if you leave the stems in, you're going to get more of those highlighted kind of capsicum, bell pepper kind of nuance.
The other thing as well, if you leave the stems in, it's going to be a problem because Cabernet is classically incredibly tannic. It's what gives it that aging potential. And it's something like 1 to 12 ratio between pip to pulp. Worth pointing out, Semillon is 1 to 25. So it's twice as much pip to pulp ratio, which means that pip is where all of the tannic, the tannins in Cabernet comes from, not from being in the barrel, but from from the actual grape matter, the super tannic grape pips and the skins, and you don't fucking want any more than that. So Jesus Christ, you have to destem.
Yeah, and then it goes through. When I was reading about this, I was like, what an optical sorting machine before crushing. There's a state-of-the-art winery, so it's rich families, former aristocrats,
second growth,
yeah. So got plenty money. So their winery is state-of-the-art, like gravity fed, which has been completely redone. And then this is it. Each plot is vinified separately in 57 different thermos-regulated stainless steel tanks, which are double-walled, which allows pre-ferment cold maceration to happen,
which keeps it cool. And because it keeps it cool, it keeps the wine then fresh.
27 of those are double-walls for pre-fermentation cold maceration for a week to enhance purity and color. Yeah, very cool.
Fantastic.
So with this
it's got a really lovely creaminess to it, actually.
It's a beautiful, elegant, proper Bordeaux, still a tad young, I would say, even though this has got quite a little bit of age on it, but this could still age for over a decade easily, and become a better beverage. The same kind of tender love and care that goes into that first Chateau wine goes into making this one. The only really difference of it is the aging, which is for 2 years in French oak. For 18 months in French oak for this one.
Plenty of oak aging into it, which is presumably why it's sort of got that dryness as well.
Beautiful, very complex. Every single time I visit the grass, I think something else of it. It's like,
are you enjoying any of these wines yet, Barry?
No,
that's the question.
No, of course not.
But like a true professional, even though he's hanging out of his ass, he's still here tasting the wines. God damn it! Proud of you, mate.
Yeah. I was very close to confidence, but no, of course not. But yeah, I didn't enjoy doing the what you call it, the research. So this morning, it's like, I can hardly see it. Turns out I didn't have my glasses on.
I think I'm still drunk from last night. Oh no, mate. No. You got to put glasses on to be able to see now.
I was drinking some Beaujolais Nouveau and some champagne and all sorts of delicious. I went to Tip Lane for dinner.
Nice.
Great wine list in there. So yeah.
Who did that wine list?
Me, mate. Yeah, very good.
Oh yeah.
Very good. If you've not been yet, go and check them out. They do some fantastic small plates and sharing dishes, but it's phenomenal. Have you been recently?
I've never been.
What? Mate, go and check it out.
I'll take L.
It's lekker.
I will take L.
Yeah.
I've told you we were at Ad Hoc. Had that Chateau Cantamel Haut-Brion, Haute Medoc, but we also had on their recommendations. I was going to go for a Pouligny, but instead I went for this fucking white Bordeaux, which was 100% Semillon, but oaked, honeyed, called La Sémillante de Cigalas, Grand Vin Blanc Sec, 2018. That was it.
Right.
That was it. Can you guys see that? No, of course you can't. But that was fucking outrageous.
What was it?
That was outrageous. Like
white Bordeaux.
White Bordeaux.
Normally, it's for me. It's all like Sauvignon Blanc and
100% Semillon.
I've never seen anything
Batonnage.
Right.
Plenty of oak. It was absolutely 100% your Strasser, mate.
Right.
Talking 100% Barry Strasser. Let's see if we can't finish on a high.
Hey,
with wine number 4. Let's have a little crack at it. It is the Pine Ridge Napa Cabernet Sauvignon. This is 2021. Everything we've said previously about Cabernet thriving most with a bit of bottle conditioning, it's going to go out this water, out the window as we drink this 15.5%.
Oh, look at the fucking
ink, squid ink. in a glass
That
that
is
is
dark.
this big boozy boy. Despite all those things, and obviously they make their wines here specifically. America doesn't necessarily have the patience of the frogs. But it is a wine that definitely will benefit from giving it plenty of time in the bottle. And it's starting out dear enough at 2021's vintage. So
It used to be really cheap wine until 1976 when the Judgment of Barrett
they
happened.
fucked it for all of us by
Well,
making incredible wines that changed the world.
There was it an English chap called Stephen Spurrier, rest his soul. He put American wines within the annual tasting of the Grand Bordeaux and Burgundies from France, and because he saw the potential in these wines way before anyone else saw it. And I saw, have you ever watched Somme, that movie?
I've watched
watched bits of it, have you?
I don't think I've watched Somme. I've watched with Severus Snape.
Oh, that's Bottle Shock.
Bottle Shock.
Yeah, that's about him.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. I love that, but mainly I can't remember. I've forgotten his name. One of the greatest British actors ever to have done it. Who played Snape? Joel, look that shit up for us, will you?
Oh, God, who's that now? Who plays Professor Snape?
It's not even that's not even his best role. His best role is in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes, it is, and he also plays, what's his name?
Alan Rickman. Thank you very much, Rebecca and Mike. I feel the shame for not being able to remember his name is.
I'm Dutch.
I will.
He's no Rutger Hauer, but
is anybody Rutger Hauer?
Blind Fury, great movie. But he plays a blind ninja.
R.I.P. Alan Rickman, indeed.
Rest
in peace, Alan Rickman. What a fucking thing he is.
He's also the main baddie in Die Hard. Is he not?
Yeah, Hans Gruber.
Yeah, Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, no. But they sort of honor, they sort of honor him in America, that he should have his own street.
Not Alan Rickman.
No,
Steven
Spurrier, who plays in Bottle Shock. He really well and truly put, particularly Napa Valley and particularly Stags Leap District, where these guys, after that happened in 1979, they invested heavily.
Yes, it wasn't these guys, was it? Stags Leap Winery, and it was their SLV that changed the world of wine. But Napa Cabernet, on the back of it, has ridden a wave. Now,
similar thing with Bulgari, right? Like, the guys at Sassicaia and Tianello were making incredible wines over there, and all of a sudden everyone's like, maybe I should buy some land over there, like the people from Veneto and Franciacorta and all sorts. It's like, let's go make some of that dollar bill, y'all, with that renowned little IGT in Bulgari.
Interesting, as we mentioned, in hot climates, Napa Cabernet is a very different grape to that in cold climates, and we're about to experience that right now. But California isn't actually quite as hot as perhaps as you think, particularly in the region that we're looking at right here. So we are up here in the Napa. It's funny, further south down here, you would expect it to get hotter as you go further south. It actually gets cooler, right? And the reason being,
make it further south, because of the coastal influence,
because of
specifically
fog.
And there's a ginnel there as well, isn't it? Where it's sort of like,
we've mentioned it before, where it gets sucked down there and then it kind of gets pushed down there. But actually, what's more of an influence? So the Central Coast is here. The Central Valley is up there. We're looking specifically at Napa, which is further inland, so not as affected as those on the coast here by the fog. But when you come down here, actually it becomes really quite cool because the fog spends most of its time here. I think you go further south, closer to the equator, it's going to get hotter. But actually there's more fog down here, and the fog impacts all the vineyards here. But you can't really grow in this coastal bits of Sonoma and Mendocino. You can't really grow an awful lot of great quality Cabernet, although you will be able to grow a lot of everything because it's hot.
Paso Robles does some
Paso Robles, yeah, indeed. But Russian River Valley, for example,
more Pinot Noir, more Chardonnay.
You won't be able to grow good Cabernets there because conversely, it's actually too hot. Because when you get into these regions up here, you're dealing with quite a lot of altitude.
Where did you get that previous map from? It's shocking.
This one. I mean, it's like
that's stuff.
I don't like
ABAs. American.
Actually, that's because it's Quentin Sadler. So
okay.
I've nicked that off him. There you
go.
But we're looking here in the Napa. There is a risk of calling it So Napa, apparently.
So Napa.
Which is to homogenize Sonoma and Napa together. And they are two very, very different appellations. Sonoma is much more coastal, Napa much more altitude driven. But specifically, we're looking at sort of down here in Napa. We're looking at Stag's Leap district just up there, but also you've got Rutherford, St. Helena, which also got quite a lot of altitude as well. Howell Mountain as well.
It was one of my questions in my WSET level 3. Was I had to write a mini essay about Napa Valley, and one of the questions was name 2 sub-regions of Napa Valley. And luckily I knew it because I was like, you know, it's one of my favorite wine regions. So it's like this. And then I swear to God, I was right before going into the exam. You know, you sort of like cramming, right?
Yeah.
So I was like cramming in something about Moscato was being made. And guess what? One of the other questions was describe how Moscato was made. I was like, yes.
So back to the wine. Rebecca Mike said the legs on this are not stopping. It's 15.5%, so that will come as no surprise. 15.5% and no information in terms of its residual sugar content, but I'm guessing it's going to be a bit higher than the Saint Julien. Dan says this wine is darker than 1,000 Midnights. Dark, black like the oncoming darkness of night. Rebecca Mike, it looks like it will taste of hangovers. Barry will know because he's tasting a hangover right now. Shani says green pepper and walnut shells. Should we have a little look, Basil? Should we have a little look, mate?
Let's have a little look first, right? Well, it is dark.
It's as dark as Satan's heart, as dark as super stainy.
I don't really get much like baking spices. I was expecting that.
Pretty boozy.
Yeah, it's very boozy.
Pretty fucking boozy.
Got like some like coffee bean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, not particularly ground coffee. Like like when you open up, I've got a Sage coffee machine, and it's got a like.
Have you got a new coffee machine?
Oh no, I bought this from Tim ages ago.
It's a beans cup.
Yeah, it's like it's the Sage Oracle. It's like fucking like that big.
Is it?
It's like
I was thinking about getting one. They're like 800 quid, aren't they?
No, £2,000. But I bought it for 750 quid second hand from because he was going to move house and then he did it, and so then he's still on it. He's like, I'll still sell it because I promised. It's like, no, it's not, because I wanted the Bambino version of it, but apparently that's not got so every single time you do something and it needs to re-hit or something. Anyway, there was.
Has it got like
he talked me out of it.
Has it got like a water reservoir, or is it? Do you plumb it into the mains?
No, it's got a water reservoir.
Right,
yeah. So it's not something that I'm going to be plumbing in, no, for sure. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. But particularly the storage container I've got for the coffee beans, it's got a really beautiful smell. I can smell that in here.
Do you like get your thing and weigh it out and then like spritz it with water?
No, I've seen that online. Why do people do that?
To hydrate the beans, and then you weigh it out, you spritz it, and then you grind it, and then you get the other special thing that sits on top. Put it in, and then you get the little fucking.
I follow one of those,
and you're like that, and then you're like, and then you get like another little thing, and you put that on top of the thing, and like.
Yeah,
no, it was fucking.
I just dump it in the ground. I do weigh out.
I use Nespresso pods, mate. So
I do weigh out. But it's like in the beginning because I don't know if he deliberately gave me the wrong information. He said, yeah, it's about 23 grams of coffee beans. Turns out it's 18, which is so like in the beginning when I was having these coffees, I was like a massive panic attack. I thought I was gonna die. Turns out it was a hell of a caffeine rush.
like you're in Sankey's 10 years ago. So inviting aromas of ripe blueberry, spiced plum, cinnamon, and vanilla. The deep ruby wine captures the senses. The it doesn't so much capture as forcibly bored and take hostage of the senses, does it?
I thought this was going to be a little bit more brash. It's still quite restrained.
See, this is the running through the enemy with two fucking an axe in each hand. That's that kind of confidence. That one, the Leoville Poiferret Saint Julien is the confidence of having an entire army behind you that you paid for because you're a fucking landed gentry. And this one is, I could just kill everybody in that army anyway because I'm a fucking lunatic.
Oh my god, that's giving me the right kind of goose pimples. It's boozy though, eh? Wow. I don't remember it. I don't remember it. What are the
tannins are also pretty fucking whoa.
Go to previous vintages. What's the alcohol level been like?
In 2020, 15 and a half. In 2019, it was 15. In 2018, 15. So we are going up, and there is actually, you know, I've got to be honest with you, if I compare this to the Icona that we did, which is 15.9% ABV. Okay, the booze is more pronounced on this than on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I wonder why.
And that was also a straight Cabernet, but admittedly,
but they're trying to make this in the French style, though. So I reckon the Icona has got more American oak, I'm guessing.
Well, interestingly, this doesn't have as much American oak as you think.
No, it doesn't. That's what I mean. It's
I don't know that the Icona had any American oak. Let me look at it. But this is what really interesting. So half of this is old French oak, neutral French oak. Of the half that is new oak, I think 35% of it is American and 15% of it is French. From when
3070 I've got written down. Handpicked at night again, sorted in the vineyard, destemmed, gold soaked, high temperature fermentation to really get the most out of those skins. Daily cap management, and then racked into oak, 30% American.
So here we go. French. The wine was racked at 35% new French oak, 15% new American oak barrels, and aged for 18 months prior to bottling. 50% was aged in neutral French oak to maintain the freshness and elegance of the vintage. So actually, only 15% of this was aged in American oak.
It smells. It smells like a fire that's gone off, gone out.
Yeah, big time.
Like smoky embers or whatever you call that. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah. Then when you go to the fire pit the next day.
Again, really perfumed. That's again reminds me of a Tom Ford, a cologne or something like that. And you walk through the perfume section, Selfridges. Whatever.
It's not. I've got to be honest with you. It's not a.
But it is still fruity though.
It's not a hugely pleasurable drinking experience.
I think we had the same thing last time with Pine Ridge.
I just think for it to be affordable, it's so young.
Yeah.
Also, 18 months in oak. That means it's had no time to bottle condition. This is the 2021 vintage. 2021, mid 22, mid 23.
So it literally
it was in a barrel in the summer.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's probably why then.
What do you guys think at home? Let us know. For me, that's quite. Rebecca says this needs cheese to knock it off. Sean says the only way to start the day. I know. I think actually, we're talking about coffee.
Oh right,
in your face, good but not shy, like an espresso with a dark chocolate bounty melted into it. Rebecca was like, so now I really want to melt a bounty into an espresso, and that apparently is the only way to start a day. This is like getting punched a little bit. It's a bit much on the nose. It was quite bold. But it's pretty abrasive and aggressive. It's not a wine, and this was decanted 2.5 hours ago. So like,
I prefer the Poiferret.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think I just think with the Dozac and the Pine Ridge, these are both two wines that are just too young to really be fully appreciated.
Yeah,
you know, Cabernet is about that tannin transfer in barrel. but then that whole thing amalgamating and integrating in bottle. And if you have one without the other, regardless of which direction you go, you are going to have a wine which isn't as good of a Cabernet as it could or should be. So I think that's
the moral of the story.
I think
Cabernet,
so.
drink it aged.
I think that's the takeaway. You have to have age on this grape.
And again, though, I remember drinking the Chateau Saint Michel Cabernet, which was 20 quid a bottle, and it was so drinkable, so easygoing. Is it because it had loads of American oak in it?
Probably.
So it just makes it a softer drinking experience.
Probably.
So they put it in French oak to make it stand the test of time. Remember when we were talking to Rafa about that as well, using French oak for it to be a wine that can age longer.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have too much time in American oak up front, and it's fucked.
Yeah.
So you have to have more of that French, which is less things. Sean's summed up really nicely. A bit like a really good dark chocolate, really intense and flavorful, but can only have a bit at a time until you start to feel nauseous. I don't do a red wine in moderation, so this may pose a difficulty. Rebecca says, is that the same for all Cabernet? No, because as we say, if it's young vines, and if they're not specifically making a vine, like all of these wines here are all wines where they have set out to make a wine with legacy. They're going, these are iconic wines from iconic appellations, from iconic producers within those iconic appellations. These are wines of note that are going to be wines for special occasions. If you go for because like I said, Cabernet is very, very vigorous.
Like no information on this, like nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
Cabernet is a wine which is very, very vigorous. They need to they need to control that they control the vigor by clipping off healthy bunches before they get a chance. Otherwise, they just grow too many of them. And if you do that, you would end up with a wine which is maybe slightly. If you just let it kind of run wild, you get a wine which is perhaps a little bit more juicy and fruity, but wouldn't necessarily stand up to bottle aging, and certainly wouldn't have the same kind of integrity and longevity that these wines have. I just think that we're drinking wine 1 and wine 4 too early.
Yeah, I agree on that.
But
and potentially wine 3 a little bit as well.
Maybe a touch, but I do think that wine 3
that was really good.
Is on the edge, on the verge. Dan says we had Pine Ridge 2016 in lockdown. 2020. Do think some extra aging helps. I definitely remember having tasted significantly older vintages of Pine Ridge. I think perhaps what it could be is back vintages are getting particularly popular. As the winery is getting more popular.
Did you go find wines from Liberty this year?
I haven't reached out for them.
Usually does Sunday. No,
I don't know. I'll chase it up. But like potentially older vintages are getting snapped up, and they're not keeping an awful lot of them back, or they are keeping them back, and they're releasing these younger vintages to the market in order to pay for them to store the older vintages that will then become better wines at a later date. Both of those things are a possibility, that they're either getting snapped up by investors or they're retaining them and releasing the earlier vintages quicker. It could be any number of things, but it's definitely, and we know that that's a French characteristic, is to release early and to let you do the bottle aging at home in your own personal cave in your fucking basement. But Americans, we've always classically associated with being like, right, okay, let's go. So let's go. It's ready to. It's good to drink from right now. Would it be great in 5 years, 10 years? Yeah, sure. But right now it's going to be amazing. And with younger wines that aren't trying to be this wine of note, I think it's much more a case of younger vines, more American oak, less, younger
vines.
Yeah, and perhaps picking fruit that is,
right, maybe don't letting it dry to ferment to bone dry.
Yeah. Leaving a bit of sugar in most of these would probably trick your brain into going like, oh no, this is great.
Yeah, well,
your brain would be like,
that's what sugar does.
Yeah, this is great. Fine, it doesn't matter. Yeah, great. Right. Okay. So between 3 and 4, you're going for 3?
Yeah.
So it comes down. I agree with your choices so far. 2 and 3 were my faves. Between 2 and 3,
the Henschke was drinking.
Henschke is number 1 for me as well.
It's drinking.
So I would go 2, 3, 4. as my top three.
2-3-1 for me.
2-3.
Yeah, definitely. Too boozy, Pine Ridge. Too boozy. It's way too young. You know, it needs more time in bottle. And yeah, that's twice now. I've sort of like went. I don't remember the Pine Ridge being like that. Plenty of wine to drink this evening, Tom. I can tell.
Right.
What's everybody else saying?
Cat 413, Dave 423. So Pine Ridge is still rocking their fucking Casbah.
Awesome.
Dan 324 for both. So a bit of Saint Julien love.
Like it.
312 and 321 for Mike. So Pine Ridge doesn't get a look in for either of those, and the Saint Julien comes out top as the most underrated, consistent producer of excellent Bordeaux wines at a very affordable rate. And if you use Cabernet 15, you get 15% off. So have a crack. Shani was
chicken age for forever and a day.
Shani was 234 like you, and Dunk was 243. Of Henschke wins. Yes, you, like Barry, are also not exactly without personal biases. However, yours comes from rigorous examination of the product. Barry comes from the fact that he's a shill for Big Morgan Row.
No, that's not true. It's a better wine, mate.
Right, lovely tasting. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it was good.
Barry, you were mediocre. I hope
so.
you're going to be back on form by the time that you hit your events over the weekend.
I don't think
you're not going to be, are you?
I did all of the research, came up with
he was
great
firing.
wines.
Rebecca Mike says, great tasting. Thank you very much indeed. It was lovely to have you guys here.
Thanks, guys.
Sarah, see you tomorrow as you're watching us live. By the way, guys, I guess that's a good thing to point out. You can buy onto the tasting and watch it at your leisure whenever you fancy, or if you're not free to do the tasting and you want to just get the wines and then do them at a later date, that's fine. You probably would need to do a full bottle if you're doing it more than a few days later, however. So let's go for it. Dan says, thanks, Dan. It's very enjoyable. No,
yeah, very good.
You're enjoyable.
Thanks for coming.
You're enjoyable.
We'll see you guys in the next one. When's the next one?
8th and the 15th of December.
Taking a bit of a break.
Where there's stuff going on. I'm going to Strasbourg and Colmar with the beautiful Elle next weekend.
What are you doing now?
Dan says going to have a lie down, Barry.
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna eat something. Maybe a second McDonald's. Who knows?
2 Mackies. Fucking hell.
Mac regrets.
Going there for Weihnachtsmarkt.
Oh yeah.
Christmas market.
Great.
Wow, it's a nice one. Because Strasbourg is the capital of Christmas.
Is that so?
Apparently.
Oh.
The capital of Noel.
Is it it's in Alsace, right?
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, you're gonna get some Flammkuchen.
Flammkuchen,
yeah,
and more Riesling than you know how to fucking shake a stick out.
Bring me some back, well, yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
All right,
I'm not bringing fuck all back for it. Sean says, see you tomorrow if I'm on the boat. I am on the boat. Are you on the boat? Oh shit, Sean's on the boat.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Enjoy. What boat are you doing tomorrow? Christmas cocktails.
No, Christmas wine and cheese showcase.
Oh.
So that'll be fun. We'll see you guys then. God bless, Haile Selassie. Thanks for joining us. Peace and love.
Have a good one.
You guys on there as well. Fucking hell, it is good.